Yeah, we are live. Hello everyone, I am Sanjay Gupta. I welcome you on Scale Horizon YouTube channel. And you already know we are running this ServiceNow development bootcamp. So we already completed admin part of it, and you might have gone through the sessions. So we decided to share some development knowledge as well, so that as a whole admin plus development, you can learn, you can understand how ServiceNow is actually working. So I have Kunal again with me. So welcome Kunal on the platform.
Thanks, Sanjay.
So he will be sharing more insights about the ServiceNow development, and he will also talk about JavaScript, because JavaScript is the language of ServiceNow. And once we complete these boot camps, like admin is already done, we will be completing this development boot camp also, so that we can give you some knowledge. And after that, we'll be starting our job readiness program, because in India, lots of job opportunities are coming up into ServiceNow ecosystem. So we will be starting both online and offline courses, through that you can prepare yourself for the ServiceNow jobs. So you can visit the website. The complete curriculum is already there. We are planning to start something from November. So hopefully you will be hearing soon about those. But we just want to complete this bootcamp first, then only we will be sharing those information. And since we are providing placement assistance for our Salesforce job readiness training programs, so similarly here also we are planning same, so that after learning you can get some job opportunities as well. Okay, so with this note, I hand it over to Kunal. So I think we can start learning.
Thanks, Sanjay. Let's start with what we covered the last session. Last session was an introductory session to developer bootcamp. We went over what is ServiceNow and how do we distinguish between client-side development and server-side development. What is the main difference between development and administration? And we covered few development tools. We will come back to those because we will now try and understand how these actually work. I'll just go over the topics that we are planning to cover today. So when we covered administrative bootcamp, we covered that how can you create a new table? That's the easy part. But today we will see how do you extend an existing table, similar to OOPS, object-oriented programming. Most of these platforms allow you to extend base tables so that you already have baked in paste in functionality that is available to the parent table, and you just add new fields or add new functionality and makes your work a lot easier. We will go through what fields are, what are business rule, how ACLs work, and what is list view and light record, how do they match and come together. And since we would be inheriting base tables, we'll understand how do you override a few functionality that are in base table, how do you override to make your new table function a bit differently. We will look into the dictionary overrides, and we will also look into how reference field work and how do you access the referenced field values on a reference record. How do you work on that? We call it dot working in ServiceNow. We'll cover that. This two parts we'll cover quickly within next 15 to 20 minutes at max, and then we will start developing. And when I say developing, we will take a scenario, a fictional company that we have created for this, and we'll see what can we do to ease the problems that this organization faces. But we'll come to that later. Let's start with extending a table. Now, in ServiceNow, there are many tables, right? And what we'll do is we will go to definition of tables. And how do we identify which table comes from where? For example, any table that starts with X underscore, that means that has been created as part of a scoped application. Whenever an application starts with SN underscore, that is short for ServiceNow, that means this table was created for an application that was created by ServiceNow. But there are other tables, and how do we do that? So we will see the name Now, this is something which normally is not covered in any tutorials, and this is something that you learn when you start working, filtration of records. So we are doing does not contain X underscore. So we will filter out all the tables that start from X underscore, and we will also remove tables that does not contain SN underscore. So we have removed all tables that are created in applications and which start from SN. What do we get? Oh, there are many. Okay, so that will not help us. So what we'll do is there are another kind of table that start from sys underscore. And these tables are devised and created for system functionality. And there would be some other tables. We'll just go to the table directly, and that would be task table. This is one of the most extended table in ServiceNow. And the tables which start without any prefix, these tables are called base tables. They were created very in the start of the ServiceNow. And that is why they don't even have a prefix, which can be called as a namespace. And this is one of the most extended task table in ServiceNow. I already have this table opened up. And what we'll do is we'll actually open the schema map of this table, which will show us how many tables have extended from task table. So these many tables are extended from task. And if you see what this diagram is trying to show you is that this is the base table, which is task. It has a certain number of fields on it or columns on it. When you extend from it, you have an option to create columns which were not present on the task table. So now you have a table which sits on top of the task table. So it has all the columns that are present in task, but it has two additional fields, that is translated HTML and choice list. So these two fields are added onto the task table, and now they become security task table. We will quickly create a new table and we'll extend it from task. We are doing this in global scope just to understand how this works. Now in ServiceNow, as I've always said, there are multiple ways of doing things. For example, I could come to this table list view and click on new, but I'm a developer. I know things. So what I'll do is I will write the table name sysdb object dot do. This will open the form for creating a new table in the current browser. But I don't want to miss this tab. So I can do another thing. I can write these in capital letters, and this will pop up a new tab, which will open this form. So what we'll do is we will say onboarding task, and we will extend the task table. We will create a new module, and we will create some columns that will be part of this table, and that is onboarding date. And done. That's it. We are not doing much more. We just want to understand how this works. We'll submit this. And that should be created. We'll go here and we will remove all filters. So if you remember, we added 3 filters here, 1, 2, 3, and I could remove individually a filter, remove the next condition, clicking on this greater than sign, a caret, but we can remove by clicking on all, and all filters are removed. And we have our table, that is onboarding task. And if you open this, you will see we just created 1 column on this, but this table has 72 columns. 71 are inherited from task table, and one is that we created. We will update the list view to add the table name here, table, and that will show us where this field has been created. Now, for example, all these fields say this column is on task table. So let's remove every column that is on task table. We right click and filter out, and we have two fields. SysID is the unique ID, GUID, and the second is the one we created. That is how we extend our table. And we will come to dictionary overrides. We will cover all these features, but once we actually start working on a practical example. We don't need this. And we will now look into dictionary overrides. Now, if you remember, we said we don't want to look the columns that were created on task table, but we remove that filter. Now we can see all those. Now, if you see, active has a default value of true, right? What if I wanted to change that? We would go to, again, right? So we will go to dictionary override on this field, which is on task table, and we will create one for our own table. So we go to the column record, click on dictionary overrides, click on new, and we will tell that we want this on onboarding task, and we want to override the default value, and we will put that as false. Now, these are all options that can be overridden. If it is a reference, you could override that. You could override dependency, attributes, calculation. Is it mandatory? Is it read only? And display value. These are something that we cover later in. Yeah, since we were, no. Okay, so we are back. Yeah, I'll go back. All right, so yeah. Right. So I'm not sure where we stopped, but we were talking about dictionary overrides. So what we had done already was that we extended the task table and we created a new table, which was onboarding task. And on this table, there is a field by the name active. I have that tab open, but we will go back and see how that worked. Okay, cool. Okay, excellent. So yeah, in that case, we did not miss much. So yeah, on this, we created a dictionary override for active on this table. And what we did was that we overrid the default value and made it to be false. We are overriding default value, and the default value for our extended table will be false. That is not active. And we open two forms. One is on onboarding task and another being the task table. And the moment you open this, you'll see that this is active true. And on this table, by default, it is active false. That is a how you inherit a field, but then override some property on it. Now, we were talking about what is a dictionary record. So if we were to go back and so this is dictionary override, and we will go back to our record that is active field. Now in ServiceNow, it is known as dictionary. What does that mean? That this record that you see on screen is a metadata record for this column on the table task. So whenever you create a new record, new field on a table, a new metadata record known as dictionary is created. And that stores all the properties, all the default values that needs to be there. I think that is about dictionaries. And now we'll talk about how relationship work and how relationships are created between two different tables. On this, if you see, there is a field that is assigned to. So task by definition is something that needs to be done. And when you create a record on task, you can assign it to an individual user. And that is a reference. Remember, we talked about that this a field is a dictionary record. So yeah, if we right click on assign to, it will say configure dictionary. That will take you directly to the dictionary record of assign to. And there it is. And what it shows you is that this is a reference field. That column label is assigned to, and the record is still loading. Let's give it some 30 seconds. Yeah, now we have it. The reference specification is that this refers to a user, and the reference qualifier is that when you are allowed to choose a value here, there are some filters that are applied before you choose some values, and that is known as reference qualifier. And the qualifier is that role is ITIL. That means this user should have an ITIL license or ITIL role when the list appears. So those are this, and we will come to when we actually start coding, we'll come to how can you access a reference value. You know what, we can actually do that quickly. So if I were to choose a random record here, and we will put this, and I actually want to cover something which is good. So we have a way to run some script on the server without actually creating a new uh, permanent scripts, that is background scripts, which is essentially for testing, but you can do multiple things in it. So we will open the script in a new tab. And if you have SN utils extension that we talked about in the last session, you will see this, that on the left-hand side, you can write a script, and on the right-hand side, you will get the all the answers, all the logs that you actually run. So we will create a new variable, and that is task gr. Gr is glide record, which is the class that we use to communicate with database. And on task gr, we will get the record that we just created. Now we need to provide the unique identifier of that record. And since we have it here, there are two ways to copy it. One is that you could copy it from the URL, that is 7C, if you can see. But there's an easy way. You just click on the gray part, right click on it, and it gives you an option to copy the SysID of this record. We will copy this record, go back here, and we will try to get this record. If ServiceNow finds a record, it will return true value, and we will write GS info. GS is glide system, another basic class available in ServiceNow that allows you to communicate with console. So right now we will log an info message as true. So we will say task gr dot get value of the field assign to, right? And let's see what happens. Right. Now, interestingly, it gave us the GUID of that record. I wanted you to see this because remember, behind the screens, whenever there's a reference field, it just stores the reference of that record. And how do you uniquely identify a record is by their GUID, which is known as SysID in ServiceNow, right? Now, we'll do two more things. We will get display value of assigned to, right? And this will give us name of the user of this record. And if you remember, we talked about dot working. So if I were to look at this record, now in ServiceNow, whenever there is a reference record, you will get this eye icon, info icon, and that is preview this record. So I can click on this and it gives me the record preview. But I can open this record in a new tab, click on control and click. And this will open the record in a new tab. And if you had SN Utils extension installed, you could double click on the white space and it will show you the field names, right? So we have display value that is Aaron OB, but I want to know their time zone, right? So I will dot walk to that. So GS info task GR assigned to dot time zone dot get display value. And let's run this. It gave me empty, which is weird. Let's remove this part. It has a time zone, right? So assigned to dot time zone system. Let's open the record and what does it show here? Time zone is actually empty and what you see on the screen is default value. So that is still okay. So we will try and dot walk to username, the name that user ID that user uses to log in and username, and you get the. So what we did that we are on task table, we got the record, and then we dot work dot assign to dot username. Now we accessed values in two ways. One was we use a function that is available on this class, that is get value. Now we could have done it another way as well. We could have simply wrote it down like this, and it will still work. And get display value can be done another way, is that get display value, and will still work. What is the difference? Now, this is something, if you know, you are really good at interviews. So I'll tell you. So whenever, let's open developer.servicenow.com and we'll open the documentation for this. Server global, we are in global scope and we will search for client record. Client record. So when we initiate this class, what you're given is an instance of client record class. That is easy, understandable. But each field on this class is an instance of another class, and that is glide element. We saw it here. Yeah, this is it. So this is the class, and this class has its own functions. So if I were to search for glide element, these are the values that we were using. Dot get value, and get display value. So either you use functions that are available on glide record class, or you use functions that are available on glide element class. And glide, each column on this table is an instance of glide elements class. Cool. So we have covered how we can create a new table, extend it from task table, and how can we add a field on it, and how can we override the default functionality, default value, and how do we dot walk from one table to another. Now, let's assume that this is the theoretical part of the session. Now we'll jump to the practical part, and that is now we have a company, we have an organization known as Starfleet Innovations. It's a high-tech company that specializes in developing advanced propulsion system and navigational software for space exploration. They have a workforce of 5,000 employees, which includes engineers, scientists, and admin staff. The problem that they have is that whenever they have a new technology request or project proposal, it goes through emails, spreadsheet, and manual filling out of forms. Now, this is not a hypothetical situation. Yeah, company is hypothetical, but these kind of challenges actually happens in company because companies start small, everyone knows everyone, they just shoot an email and things get done. But the moment you start growing, the moment you have like 1,000 employees, there is no way everyone knows everyone else. The newcomers will not know anyone. So they have to go through a process. Okay, I will send an email to HR, and then HR will send an approval email to CTO, and then they will approve, and then something starts happening. But we can do it in ServiceNow. And that is what we have suggested. That is what we have proposed to this company, that we will move every process and automate it inside ServiceNow. They already have ServiceNow. They have an instance that we would use and create a new application for them, create new tables and create new forms and create new automation flows for them to work with everything that they're doing manually at this moment. We will create a new table today. We'll create a first, we should create a new application for this. So we will go to Studio, ServiceNow Studio. Create an application. And we will call it Starfleet Innovation Requests. It's a scope application. I think we're good for now. We will create two users, user roles. One would be admin, another would be user. Let it create a new application. And once that is done, we'll go to view application detail. Right. There are some files that are automatically created when we create a new application, and those are two roles that we allowed to it to be created. Now let's go back to our normal view. And since we are developers, these two are very important to us. So we are now trying to work on application that we created. So we click on application scope and we will go to Starfleet Innovation Request, and we will choose this application. This should reload our page. Let's give it a minute. Starfleet Innovation Request. Okay, that's weird. Let me refresh the page. Right, so we are in that application and we will create a new table. If you remember, we knew how to do that by sysdb object.do. and we will extend this from task since we want that functionality to be available. Okay, and we will create a few fields. Okay, I'll show you another way of creating new fields. So for that, what we'll do is we will simply save this record that will create a new table and extend every field that we need to extend from task. And now we would create new field by clicking on new. I want this to be a string field. I want the label to be project type. And I would make this multiple choice option, but we'll come to that. They would be 100. Now, since we haven't yet submitted this record, we don't see the related list. But once we submit it, you will see that we are now allowed to create choices for this. So let's create choices. We will create just two. So there could be proportion system that we need to create, and we will put in value 1. Now, most out-of-box functionality that ServiceNow has will give you value of 1, 2, 3. You can still use it, but I personally believe that you should use text because that makes things a lot easier. Proportional system, that is our first option. We will put in sequence as 100 so that when we create the second one, we'll put that as 200. And landing apparatus. Landing apparatus. This is English and this is that. And we will save this. And we are done. So we have created a field on this table. Let's go back and create a new record on new dictionary. And the second field that I want to create is string as well. Propulsion system. I want to create again choice list on this. Drop down without none. Save. Let's create two choices for this. I want them to create a new warp drive. I know that's not possible, but that doesn't mean we cannot create that choice, right? Warp drive and sequence would be 100. We'll create another one that is ion thrusters. Save this as well. Okay, so I do need to create few more fields, but that will take a longer time. For the functionality that I want to show you guys, these two should be more than enough. So we would go to the table now, and by default, task table has a field that is known as short description. We will use that and create a new record. So when you're in the table record, you can actually see that there are some related links that are available to you. And there is an option that shows show form. And if you click on this, it will directly take you to a new record creation page. But it does not show the two new fields that we created. So we would quickly configure the form design to include those fields. Project type, I want it to be here. Short description. Let's make it 2 columns so that we have enough space for this. And let's create a new one at the bottom and move description and work notes to that column. And I also wanted to add propulsion method, and that's a wrong spelling, but yeah. Okay, so all right, that is it. I'll save this and go back to our previous tab and reload. Okay, so now that we have this, we want to make some changes. And the change is that if the project type is propulsion system, I want to make sure that this field becomes mandatory. Right now, it's an option. You can choose it, you can skip it as well. But actually, it's not. Let me make this non-mandatory. So we chose drop down without and we'll choose drop down with that. And I kind of bugs me that I put in the wrong spelling. Okay. We have saved it and now we'll go back to our create task. Now we have an option to say none, but I want to skip that and I want to see if there's a propulsion, this becomes a mandatory field. Configure and client script. Remember in first session, we understood that client scripts run on the browser and business rule run on the server. For now, we are looking at client script that will run on the browser itself. Now, if you see there are client script out of the box, but they are on table tasks. But when you extend a table, client scripts, business rules are also inherited. So what I want to say is make propulsions method mandatory. I want to it be based on all. I want to say on change, and the field that changes is project type. Good. So now what you see on the screen is that this client script will run when the value changes on the field project type. Good. And when you start writing a script in ServiceNow, it will be a function that is on change. And this function will be called when this happens. And you get these 5 values: control, old value, and new value. We are mostly interested in these values, which is what was the value that was present before this change happened and what is the current value. So I want to see if new value equals, I don't even remember what was the value of that field. Okay, let me copy this and if I want to see everything about table, I could write the table name dot config. Let's write it capital so that it pops in a new tab. And it will show you everything that is to be seen on this table. We want to see the dictionaries and I want to see by updated, which was done last. So when you choose to see updated by sorted by Z2A, that means the most recent updated record comes at the top. And we want to see the project type. I'll click on that. And now we see if it is proportional system. So I'll copy the value from here. Remember, we are looking at values and not at the label. If the new value is this, right? I want to make this field as mandatory. So what is the name of this field? Is this one. I'll copy the field name. And we will access the form class by gform set mandatory and the field name. That's it. And else g underscore form or send mandatory value false. So it will not be mandatory. Let us save this, submit, and we will reload this page. And the moment we change it to professional system, this becomes a mandatory field now. Must be populated before submit. Now, this is a very simple example, but what we really need to look into is that, okay, need to go here. I'll duplicate this and then open the client scripts that we just created. So what I'm trying to show you is that when you have this class G_form, it allows you to cover and control everything that is visible on this form. And now, since I started last session, I told you that everything should be checked here. Any reference that you want to see should always come to developer.servicenow.com. So we will see what other functions are available for us. It will be glide form. This is it. So these are multiple options, multiple functions that are available on this class. So for example, now I want to add some decoration. Actually, let's do an add low message, right? So we made a change, right? So we made this change and I will add a low message. That is not. Let me copy this. And we will save it. We will reload this page. And I will change it to professional system. And you get this notification, which is this was made mandatory. So you control pretty much everything that is on screen in a form using glide form class. There are many classes that you will come across in ServiceNow, but some of the most important classes, we have covered those. The first is glide record. This is a class that you need to connect and read data from any database. Then is GS, that is glide system. And third is G_form, which is glide form class. If you know these three classes, you would be able to done almost 40 to 50% of the development work. Everything revolves around these classes. You want to make any change to database, glide record. You want to modify how form works out, glide form. If you want to do any logging, let's actually open glide system here. It would be server scope and glide system. Glide system. It has a list of functions that can be used. And these are very powerful functions. Some of them, for example, you can look which user is currently logged in, gs.getUser. So if you know these three classes, you have completed 30% of development when it comes to scripting side. So if you are practicing, remember to practice on these three classes. Open up this page, look up this class, and look at each and every function that is available and how it works. All right. So what we have done is that if the project type is proportional system, we would make the method function, method field as mandatory. Now we will create a new function, new field that is required executive approval for this client script to work. Let's go and do that. I will now show you another way to add a new field on the table, and that is through point and click. So we click on form design. We already had that, but okay. And here are the fields that are available already on this table, but there is another tab which says field types. So I want to use this, and I want to see if there's a checkbox. Sorry, true, false is the name of the field that they allow us to create. And I will say, bring this here, true, false, and I'll click on this, and the label would be require executive approval. And it will be, well, okay. I want it to be read only because I want a calculation to decide whether this is available or not. And that is it. We have added new field onto the table without opening the table configurations. And if I were to reload this page, we have this value available, but we cannot click on it. But we can do that if we were to make a new client script. So let's go to history and see where the client script. So this is the client script. And we will create a new check executive approval when budget greater than 100,000. Okay. So all on change. Okay, we also need to create a new field. I almost forgot. We need a budget field for this. So we will create an integer, not integer, right? We need floating number, right? And we will call it budget. Wait, we can actually use a better, we can use a currency field here. Since we are talking about currency, right? So we'll create a new currency field and we'll call it budget. And we'll call it u underscore budget. That's it, save, reload. And now we have this option and we will put in 100,000. And I want to see if this is over 100,000, this should automatically become checked. So let me refresh this since that field will still not be available. Accept approval when budget is greater than 100K. Right, so I want to see this on change and on budget. And I want to see if new value is greater than 100,000. G underscore form set value. I need the name of the field, which is this. I'll copy the field name from here. And I'll set it to true. Another thing that we can see is that since this is running on browser, we can actually use console.log. So new value is new value, and this should show up in browser. So I'll reload this page. And we will open a browser console here. Right? We will remove previous values and we will change budget, for example. We will make it 200 and that somehow did not work. Let's see. did not require. Thanks for inserted. It's on budget. That is budget. Oh, sorry, it's U underscore budget, but doesn't matter. Budget inherited. Let's see if we made some mistake, and this is the this. What is the value that we get when this runs? Okay, right. So since we used currency field, the value that it uses is in this form, and we now need to make sure that we get a different value on currency field. Okay, and these are the scenarios when using LLM is really good. So let's use ChatGPT to create quickly a function to remove this value. I create a new JavaScript function to fetch numeric value from a string and format. Okay, so we will write the function here. And I need to use extract. Okay. Okay. Now let's see what happens. And the moment we put in 120,000, this gets checked automatically. Now, if someone is feeling that using ChatGPT is not a good thing, remember ChatGPT or Gemini or any other AI tool that you use is a tool. Don't ask it to do your work. Ask it to write small functions, and that is good. But the moment you start asking for detailed answers and started believing it, that is where things go wrong. My motto is very simple. If you know what is written here, then you're good. But if you're asking it to write something that you do not understand, that is where things go wrong because you do not know what ChatGPT is hallucinating. I could just write this function if I had time for it, but since I did not have time, I just used this tool. So that's just a disclaimer. And for beginners out there, remember, only use ChatGPT or any other LLM if you can do the task yourself, but you don't have the time for it. Okay, Sanjay, we are kind of running out of time. We still need to cover business tool, but we can cover that in next session.
I think we can do that, yeah. So we can wrap session here only, and next
Yeah.
week in the next session we can resume from here, and we'll be able to
True.
cover up other things.
Yeah.
Okay, I think it was a lengthy session and lots of things you
Yeah.
explained. So those who are following this series, so lots of knowledge they will be gaining. So again, guys, we are just giving you the like overview. We are not deep diving, and whatever we can cover in these sessions so that you can understand how ServiceNow works and how you can do the development. Those things we are sharing. You might be thinking like, can we have some hands-on exercises, any real-time project if we can implement? So yes, we will be helping you so that you can do those things. But for that, we will be curating a program, and that is already available on our website. So through that, you will be gaining that knowledge because it needs a lot of time. Okay.
True.
So we will be asking you to enroll for those programs, and then for specific students, those will be. And if you go through with that, surely you will be becoming job ready for the ServiceNow ecosystem. And it is
Good.
growing, and lots of opportunities will be there in near future. Okay, so yeah, thank you, Kunal, for sharing all the knowledge. And
Thank you, Sanjay.
yep, those who are watching live and those who are watching the recording, so thanks to you as well, and spread the words like so that more and more folks can get to know about ServiceNow. Okay, with this note, I think we can wrap the session here only.
All
Okay,
right. See you
thank
guys
you.
next week.